Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our TGIF and Friday episode this week with Mirela Mus. Hey Mirela, welcome back.
Nice to have him here.
Absolutely. And usually we would talk about what makes a great product owner and a bad product owner. But today we have a product owner with us. So we're going to explore what product owners think about Scrum Masters. So Mirela, we'll talk about a great Scrum Master in a minute, but share with us what was potentially the worst Scrum Master anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career.
The worst have been people that were just disruptive to the whole team, under the guise of Scrum framework or trying to make themselves useful by organizing meetings that were not relevant. They were also escalating when that was not needed to the point that it created a bit of noise for us at that specific client.
So talk to us a little bit more. How does that feel? Let's say I'm a product owner, I'm coming into a team, and I'm trying to assess like how the relationship goes with the Scrum Master. How does it feel when you have a Scrum Master like that? What are the things that they do, the type of conversations that you have with them? How does that come up?
Well, that was quite visible. So our work is interim, which means that we are parachuted in for a short amount of time, and we need to deal with whatever is there. So more a bit like a SWAT team. The way we staff at Product People is the client pays for one client-facing PM. They get 3 people from us, meaning one is client-facing, there's an associate for tactical support, and then there's someone supervising and mentoring. To that point, our people are luckier than an employee. First of all, they won't stay there if things don't get resolved, right? It's someone else's problem long-term. Second, they have this background support from the 2 other people at Product People that see what is happening at the client, because most of the time we will have accounts and they can talk with each other and say, hey, what is happening? Like one of the things that made it to our funny channel internally is 2 of our PMs screenshotted the conversation and said they are crazy. And then the other person would like react with 100%. So you're going to see if someone is doing some things for the sake of doing them, or is just creating disruption and noise, or when that is not the case there. I think the PMs, as a PM, you're going to see this the first because it's going to affect you. And initially, you just need to observe what's happening, try to set some ways of working with that person, try to give them plausible deniability, which in that specific case was also very difficult for us because we were relatively new there. And that Scrum Master started escalating for the sake of escalating at any pushback they would get from us on disrupting everyone. So it was also a bit of a risk as a new person to go in and say, hey, I think this Scrum Master is not doing well and they're just disruptive, because you don't want to be that new person until you've established. So we were forced into that because that Scrum Master was escalating. In that specific example, that person had been terminated later on. So the story ended up being good. But in the short term, it felt a bit scary for us because we were like, okay, now this person escalated. Now we're put in the defensive to explain everything. And we also started off on the wrong foot. It wasn't the most pleasant setup.
So if you have to advise a product owner going into a similar situation, right? Like they see a lot of disruption, a lot of escalations. What would you give, like as an advice or as thoughts that people could take in and maybe try to either survive or overcome that situation?
Yeah, first I think you need to survive, right? You need to assess, okay, is this something I'm doing wrong? Look at what would I be doing in a healthy and productive organization? Is there something that I did that I kind of gave them the reason to attack me like that? So it's a lot of self-reflection. And then again, assume good intentions, try to be the more collaborative one because you're the new one there. and no one wants to bring in a new person that's going to create disruption. So you must look like you're not creating that, and start winning some friends and getting a few quick wins there, so that the dev team and everyone starts feeling that you're useful. Otherwise, just you're going to be that new person that came in and got in a fight with the Scrum Master, and it's now creating more noise than anyone ever wanted to deal with. And trust me, as leadership, I don't want to deal with escalations. It doesn't reflect well on both people who bring it. So it's also the one doing the escalation doesn't get that many points unless it's a very good reason for it. In that case, they do. So it's a risk for everyone when there's an escalation, not only for the person who gets reported in. So having that empathy, maybe people who have not been in that position think that if they're escalating, they're actually right and winning points. In the long run, it doesn't work if you're the little boy that cried wolf all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It can, of course, fire or backfire, as it were. All right, but there's not only bad Scrum Masters, there are also amazing people out there doing great work. Share with us an example, Mirela, of what might be potentially the best Scrum Master you've worked with.
Sure. I think one of the points that made them good is that they weren't just a Scrum Master. So that person had also been at early stage companies, dealt with the business and product side, even sometimes doing it themselves. And they were very personable, with a bit of a coaching type of attitude, like asking a lot of questions, trying to see things from an empathic people perspective, and not just throwing some process at you. And that made them successful, because most of the things you deal with is humans all the way down. It's like someone's misunderstanding or someone's uncertainty or insecurity, especially in this job market. And that made the Scrum Master quite effective of dealing with people from a people perspective, not necessarily from how is the process supposed to work in a by the book way and pestering everyone with their book.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a people business anyway. And I think that's a great point to make, to take a people's perspective, right? The process is there to help people, not to shape or wrangle people, right?
Yes.
So, Mirela, we're almost at the end of this week with you. We thank you very much for sharing all of those ideas and stories with us. But before you go, where can we find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
Sure, I'm always present on LinkedIn, at least for now, and under Mirela Mus. There's also the Product People website at getproductpeople.com. You can also join some of our live stream events. And if you don't make it, we broadcast them on YouTube, so you're going to be able to watch them there at a later time. And we also have a podcast for where we started season 2. This is if you're interested in product management, product ops, as we don't cover Scrum Master topics, but in general, best practices for the fast evolving product management landscape.
Absolutely. And Scrum Masters, we all work with product owners and product managers. So it behooves us, of course, to study their work and understand their work to a certain extent. Mirela, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Thanks a lot, Vasco.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast host, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. So join us at scrummasterpodcast.com and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more full week of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.